Hey, what's up, guys? See how fast that goes? Hey, guys, it's Ted Bogart with the Ted Show. Man, this is a timely show. Super excited, always honored to have Sheriff John Mina, Orange County Sheriff John Mina, on the show. We had some big announcements this week. We even had one this morning, so it couldn't be any better of a timing. So thank you so much for taking time out, John. I know your life must be just crazy.
No problem. It's great to be with you. And I know people are anxious and they must have a lot of questions, and especially with the governor's order that came out yesterday and for Monday, and then the mayor's response. I know people are itching to find out what's going on.
They really like. It was funny because the mayor's response was this morning, and if you didn't catch it live, the news stations and the news outlets weren't summarizing it fast enough for people. So if you could see on social media, people are like, "What did he say? What did I miss? I can't find it. What's going on?" So it's really good that you're here. I'd love for you to kind of give us a rundown. I think I was definitely telling you before the show went live that I've had people message me and go, ask him if social distancing is over, and ask him what it's going to be like in the restaurants, and are we all going to get arrested if we aren't
Right.
6 feet apart. So
Right.
if you can kind of go through, and then I'll ask you questions as we go.
So the big things that came out yesterday from the governor, of course, were the restaurants can reopen again Monday, May 4th at 25% occupancy. And they can also have outside seating, but those tables need to be 6 feet apart. And now, so we got some clarification today. So that means back to back, as far as the back of the chair to the back of the chair. Because you've been in those outdoor cafe restaurants, sometimes they're
Oh
kind of
yeah.
tight. So 6 feet from back of the chair to back of the chair. We're still as far as social distancing, yes, we still need the social distance. So for groups or places where there may be more than 10 people in those places, they still have to be socially distanced. So if we end up going to a public place and there's 100 people crammed into this room, that's going to be a violation. We're still, no visitation for our elderly sites, where nursing homes and that kind of stuff. So kind of a slow rollout. But so the other big thing I know people want to hear about is the retail establishments are allowed
Yes.
also to open their storefronts with 25% occupancy. So those are the big things that happened that the governor said yesterday.
Are there guidelines in place? Before I do that, we've got a couple of people I forgot. When are the hair and nail salons coming? I don't think he has the answer to that right now, Jill, but I had a ton of questions about that.
Well, and so
Um,
Ted, I don't know, and I think I told you a while ago that my wife is a hairdresser and she rents a chair at a salon, and
yes.
she stopped taking clients about 2 weeks before the governor's and the mayor's orders came out, and so that's something that we've been watching closely. And obviously, I don't want my wife to go back until we feel it's safe. So yeah, no recommendations or no orders yet have come out on the hair salon. So I imagine that will be part of one of these second or third phases that come out, because you think about how close they are. But the hair and nail salons can open to sell products. So they might have to adjust their business model a little bit, and they can sell, all those the colors and all those things that.
Oh,
Yeah,
very good. As
yeah.
a
So
retail, very
that's
good.
great.
I
So
hadn't
that's a
thought of
little
that.
bit.
That's good. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm very glad actually to be quarantined because my hair looks like my front yard. Lots of weeds in some place and really, really bare in the other places. So tell us, I had a lot of people ask about the how to implement. Now, of course, you can't come out and how to implement, but for example, if a restaurant has outside seating, who's measuring the 6 feet, and what do they have a certain number of tables? Are there places, references that they can go online to look up how that's going to be?
So luckily, our Orange County government has been prepared for this, and so right now, I'm sure you've heard about their economy recovery task force, and that is all the things that they're working out. They're supposed to give their final recommendations to the mayor tomorrow, and so those are some of the things that are going to be discussed. What will it look like? And I think that people just need to use common sense and set up in a way that keeps people at a good social distance. And a lot of the essential businesses per se that have to be open, they've been doing a good job with that. You walk into different places and they have the little X's on the ground, and now the grocery stores have done that, one way down the aisles and those sort of things. So all that will be worked out by that, at least locally here, under that economy recovery task force.
So we had a lot of people ask, and then once they started asking, it made me think, wow, I need to really ask him this when I get a chance. The restaurants, what about you? Bars are closed, but what about serving alcohol in the restaurants that are able to be open at their capacity, whatever the capacity is?
Yeah, so those restaurants that 50% of their sales are food, more than 50% of their sales are food, they're allowed to open and they're allowed to serve alcohol, correct?
See? All right, I'm going to have a big celebration after this. What about you guys? I meant to ask this in the beginning. A lot of people wanted to know, how are you all? How are the officers? How's your team? How's your staff? Because it's been a long month. It's been more than a month for most of us. How are they holding up? What's going on with your team?
So the good news is that we're doing great. We had 6 deputies test positive. No one was hospitalized, and 5 of those deputies are already back to work. And so I'm certain the one will be back soon. So we did have a number of people in quarantine who come in contact with people out in the street who have either tested positive for COVID or claimed they were positive for COVID, or we suspected they were positive for COVID based on their symptoms. So it has been a challenge for us, like no other. And but they're doing good. At law enforcement, we're trained to adapt quickly to things, fast things that happen out on the streets. So they're doing really, really well. But just like everyone else, we want to get this over with, and we want to get to life as it was, or as close as it can be.
Back to normal, whatever
whatever
looks
that
like.
is, right?
All right, so I had a lot of questions about masks, and Bianca just asked it as well. Are masks required at the restaurants? First question.
So that not right now, but those are the things that they are working on as far as Orange County. The governor's orders, and everyone's saying to follow the CDC guidelines, and if you're in close contact with people, to wear masks. So I think that's something that's going to be answered here real quickly as far as our local communities. And I would imagine that anyone that has to be in very, very close contact with a customer will have to be wearing some kind of mask and or gloves. And so and again, that's one of the things they're struggling with is, do they check temperatures of customers come in? Do they require customers to wear masks and gloves? So those things are going to roll out probably as early as tomorrow.
Because I think Bianca's specific question was about supermarkets. Supermarkets, it's almost impossible when you're going up and down. I'm thinking of my Publix at College Park, walking up and down the aisles there. It's almost impossible to be 6 feet apart. You're walking past somebody who stopped to get something else. Are you all still recommending just keep the masks on, wear the masks, just be safe regardless of whether somebody's telling you to or not?
Right. That's still the recommendation. And if you listen to a couple of the medical experts that are on these the task force and the different working groups, which is all streamed live on Orange County TV, and it's very, very interesting. I've tuned into a bunch of them, and a lot of them are saying the most important thing that we can do is wash your hands and remain socially distant when possible. But we're still recommending, and they still recommend to wear masks. And remember, the mask is not to protect you; it's to protect other people from getting what you have. That's like a common misconception that people have, and something that we're all kind of learning together. So still recommending that. As far as will that be mandatory? We'll wait and see. It'll probably be highly recommended, but if that may be different, and it may be a mandatory recommendation for the workers and the staff at different establishments.
We had some questions about lines. They want to know if you all are expecting lines, meaning when they open, it's, you don't know if the restaurant's at, for example, at capacity or not, or the retail stores at capacity, and then how lines are going to be handled. Um, if there's any recommendations on that, or there's any kind of rules or regs that people can refer to.
Yeah, so again, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges because I was thinking to myself, I'm just like everyone else. I'm ready to go and stop eating, takeout and actually go and sit down
Right.
for my lunch. But you think about it, most people get a half hour, an hour for lunch, and they're going to drive to a restaurant and get there. They could be turned away because they're already at their max capacity or the 25% occupancy. I think that's going to be a struggle, not only for business owners, but also for us as consumers. And, trying to, either go earlier or later, I think is going to play a lot into that. And we'll have to see about that. It's going to be
One
a
of the things
challenge.
One of the things we've talked about on the show with people who are trying to encourage people to plan is if you don't have a plan in place for that now, you better get one, because the last thing you want to do is have people in line. How are you going to, as the restaurant owner, for example, manage that? And then what do you say? That's the other question we had. If you see a long line, if you see things like this, are people supposed to call the sheriff's department?
So what we want people to do is, contact the state of Florida, the Department of Health and Business Regulation. It's really their responsibility, but a lot of times that will be funneled back to us to handle because I mean they have the entire state. So just like before when we had the stay-at-home order. The stay-at-home order has been in effect for several weeks now. We would get calls and we'll respond, but knowing that that's not going to be our top priority. So we still have to reduce and prevent crime and catch the bad guys. We still have people speeding like crazy out there. So those people that call and say, "Hey, there's too many people in that restaurant," we will get to that eventually, but that's going to be low on our priority list, obviously.
Speaking of traffic, a lot of people asked about what the plans are. I'm sure you guys talk. That's the one thing I want people to know. It's not like these questions are new. I am sure John and all of your people have been having conversations about this since even before we all shut down.
Yeah.
But when we open back up and really begin, especially Monday, we're going to see a newer traffic pattern. We're going to see more cars on the road. More cars that are going places that they might not be able to get to, like we mentioned earlier.
Right.
What are the plans? What are some of the suggestions or some of the plans that you all have in place to kind of help that along? I mean, we're concerned, I think a lot of people, that there's going to be more bottlenecking because now everybody's going to want to get back on the road with the hopes of getting to their favorite restaurant.
Well, if you've noticed, like me, really over the past couple of weeks, what I have seen is that people really are feeling a little bit more comfortable getting out. The traffic has picked up on the streets. Now, we are lucky in the fact that school is still out. And distance learning. That was again part of the governor's most recent order. That's going to continue. So schools won't be back. So they're going to be they won't be buses won't be on the roadways and students won't be on the roadways. So that's good. And I think that just like everyone else, we're just going to have to see how it is. And like for me. I won't be going to lunch at 12 o'clock. I'll go earlier or I'll go later, knowing that there could be a line, there could be congestion. But if you think about it, if you pull into the parking lot and you see a bunch of people in outdoor seating, that's probably an indication that they're probably at their capacity for their 25% occupancy.
I think it'll be interesting especially since all of us do want to get out. Like you mentioned earlier, I want to get out and have a meal. I don't want takeout as much as I'm so thankful for the people who decided to offer takeout during this.
Right.
I don't want that. I want to go to a restaurant and kind of engage, of course, very safely, far apart from me, but I want to be out. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the restaurants and the managers handle that, because I guarantee you there's going to be an influx. I can think of a lot of popular places where people are just going to want to go. And remember, guys, you can't just go to hang out. Some of my favorite places, Winter Park especially, I'm thinking of one place, everybody loves to hang out around the bar and eat, and
Right.
you're just not going to be able to do the things that you think you can do. This isn't a wide open up. This is a phase process that we're going through. And you really, in order for it to continue, you've got to behave, which leads me to my next question. Jill Cohen asked, and it's a great question. Other than all of us behaving and adhering to the rules, what can we do for you all? What can we do for the officers? What can we do for the sheriff's department, the community?
Well, number one, drive the speed limit, please. And I think it's because the roadways have been so or empty, except for the last couple of weeks. People have been really speeding out there, and that can cause traffic fatalities. And I always say, when people ask that all the time, even before COVID, what can we do for our law enforcement? Just say thank you. That's it. That's all we really want. We didn't get in this job for the money and really for the praise, but it is nice when someone says thank you. And so we've been lucky over these past several weeks. We have many restaurants and businesses, giving our first responders food and lunches and all that. And most of it, we have actually said, hey, why don't you give it to people who need it more than us? We have jobs. We feel very lucky that, we have been able to continue to work and continue to be out there, keep this community safe. So we have pushed the majority of those folks away and say, hey, there's food banks, there's churches giving out food. If please give it to them.
Awesome. And one last question before I ask you a personal question. My personal questions are always easy.
Yeah.
What are you doing as far as knowing or not knowing? Because this is I had this asked. Well, he must know when phase 2 is going to be launched, and I'm going to guess that that's not true. So I just want to kind of put that to bed. If you can verify that for me. You have no earthly idea. There is no magical date in place, right?
There is no date, but when these discussions first started by our mayor and about the economy recovery task force, there were some, kind of indications that the first phase would kind of be a couple weeks and then maybe a week to evaluate, and then the second phase will start. So, we can't give any dates, but I would say, look for that 2 to 4 week period of seeing how this first phase goes. And of course, the governor has also said that, he's going to roll out in phases too. So we'll look just like we did yesterday to see what the state is going to do.
Awesome. All right. So personal question. I ask every guest, what are you doing personally aside from work to stay focused and stay positive? What are you doing? Meditation, running? I know you're an athlete. What are you doing?
Well, athlete's a stretch. But I will say what I do is I work out. So either I'll go run or I'll hit the weights or something. And you really got to do that. And the thing I tell people all the time, and I tell our deputies all the time, sometimes even more important than eating right and physical fitness, those things are great, is get enough sleep. And if I could do it as the sheriff of Orange County, everyone else can do it. Get enough sleep. That's one thing that everyone's trying to burn the candle at both ends and work hard and all that. But in order to do a good job, you have to be alert and awake, and you can't be falling asleep. So get sleep is probably the biggest advice that I can give. And that's what I do a lot. I get a lot of sleep when I can.
So I think I speak for all of us. Actually, I know it because there's lots of love going on up and down here on the chat. We're so thankful for everything that you and all of law enforcement are doing and have done. I hope and pray that this first phase rolls out just like I expected to, with a few bumps, but with everybody really wanting to work together as a community to move to phase 2 and get back to whatever it is that the new normal looks like. My daughter just popped on and said, "Dad, did you hear that?" Yes, I heard that about the sleep that Sheriff Mina said, but I'm not sure I'm listening, Haley, so thank you. But thank you for all you guys do. Thank you for always being a friend of the show and sharing with the audience, and appreciate you, my friend. I really do. Thanks for everything you guys do.
Our pleasure.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.